Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. You have blessed us all. I am Debbie Kennedy. I'm a psychiatric clinical nurse specialist. I've done many things throughout my career, such as start a psychiatric unit for a hospital, and I taught nursing at both Fort Hays State and Wichita State universities. And 8 years ago, I was asked to become the CEO of the Wichita Children's Home. I've been asked many times, why did I choose to enter the emotionally tormenting world where children receive the kinds of trauma and pain that no one should ever endure, least of all children? Well, those of you who know me, you may not know my backstory. Growing up, I was an abused child at the hands of both my mother and my stepmother. I don't want to go into the details of what that abuse was like, other than to share it was horrific. But what I would like to share is what that abuse did to me. With each blow to my body, and as each harsh word of hate and disgust were delivered, the message I received was I was unworthy, I was unlovable, I was nothing. I became ashamed, afraid, untrusting, disassociated, and hopeless. By the time I got to high school, I was void. I had no worth and I had no power. When I turned 18, my stepmother kicked me out of the house, literally at midnight. I had no place to go. A month later, I married my boyfriend, and shortly after that, we had 2 children. I tried very hard to base my family on the principles of love and security, not abuse and neglect that I had received. And with that decision, I knew my dream of becoming a nurse was fading. However, at the age of 25, I mustered the courage to go back to school. I found it very, very difficult because I had no self-confidence and certainly no self-esteem. But I finished both an undergraduate and graduate degrees in nursing and with honors. I defied the odds because statistically, children that experience the kinds of things that I experience struggle with addiction, depression, anxiety, become homeless, get involved in the criminal system, and continue the cycle of abuse. I used to wonder why I didn't walk that path. Then I realized there was a real turning point in my life. That turning point was I found someone who believed in me. I found what we all call that transformational relationship. When I was a freshman in high school, I had a teacher, I'll never forget her, Miss Phyllis Hollander, who noticed my wounds, and she asked me about them. When no one noticed me, she did. And she would look me in the eye and say the kindest things, like, "You matter. You don't deserve to be abused. You need to tell your dad." She was the first woman in my life that was ever kind to me. And her simple words of encouragement are imprinted on my soul to this day. Her compassion and her belief in me help me defy those odds and motivates me every single day to help children defy those same odds. At the Wichita Children's Home, we walk alongside the children we are blessed to care for, from newborn babies to 24-year-olds that have found themselves homeless. We help them heal. We do this with a continuum of care and healing engagement opportunities. Now, I know that's jargon that a lot of nonprofits use, but I use it because I think it truly describes how we give children a sense of security and transformational relationships with people that care about them. We help our children feel as if they have a home, they're safe, and they are loved. Every year at the Children's Home, we care for approximately 2,000 children. 2,000 children that are in our community that are being abused and neglected. I would like to tell you one of those children's life journeys. Madison, not her real name, has endured things that no one should ever endure. Drugs, sex with men she didn't know, beatings. Madison's father is in prison, and her mother is addicted to drugs. Madison's mother literally sold her for drug money. When Madison was 14, she summoned up the courage to walk into a fire station, and she began telling them of her abuse and her desire to never go back home. They told her, "You will probably be placed into foster care." That scared her because she had been in the foster care system in another state where she felt like she wasn't wanted. When she arrived at the Children's Home, she thought she arrived to a mansion. When she walked in, she felt immediately safe and wanted. Since Madison's been with us, we've done many things with her. We've taken her to counseling. We've helped her with her homework. We've cared for her when she's had her wisdom teeth extracted. We've done other things like help her navigate first loves and get ready for school dances. At the Wichita Children's Home, we make sure Madison is surrounded by people who will look her in the eye and say kind things like, "You matter. You don't deserve to be abused." We care for and about her. Madison's healing has not been easy, as she's had to manage memories of sexual abuse, physical abuse, drug addiction. But she's not been alone. We have been with her every step of the way. And when Madison ages out of foster care, we'll still be with her. She will not have to endure some of the hardships that other children that age out of foster care do. Because, for example, if she doesn't have a place to stay, she's just going to move into our apartment complex, our Bridges Transitional Living Program. But we will continue to check on her because that's what family does. Madison is known as a foster child in the care of the Wichita Children's Home. She's so much more than that. So much more than that. She's a young woman who's going to graduate from high school early, is completing college applications, and is asking me to take her on college field trips. Madison writes beautiful poetry, and on one evening, we listened to Maya Angelou together. It was a magical night. She aspires to write a book of poetry, and she's already chosen the title and written the introduction. I predict we will all know of Madison one day. Child abuse and neglect has lifelong effects. However, we can remove barriers and create conditions where children like Madison can become self-actualized and strong, living a life of purpose and finding joy. At the Wichita Children's Home, we believe that children that have suffered child abuse and neglect can become empowered. We do this by working within the system to change the current approach. We do it with our teachers who help our children become academically successful, with our therapists who help them recognize their intrinsic worth, that intrinsic worth that is so important, with our nursing staff who care for their wounds, and our entire team that help them turn their struggles into strengths. And fundamental to this belief is that every child has purpose and potential, and it's up to us to amplify their voices. I have a gift for you today. Madison knew that I was coming to speak to you today, and she gave me this and asked me to read this to you. This is from Madison to all of you. There is no doubt in my mind, as a child of abuse and neglect, thoughts of disquietude disrupt the peace and tranquility of mind. Feelings of exasperation that drove our monotonous lifestyles, unknowing what this future would hold. Then we got to the Wichita Children's Home, where suddenly we were able to grow not only in our minds, but in our spirits. We were open to opportunities, for our dreams and aspirations are now attainable, not so much out of reach as before. Can't you feel it? The opportunity is right here at our fingertips. All we ask is if you would join us in that reach of opportunity. Let me tell you, this was written by a 16-year-old girl that is currently staying at the Wichita Children's Home. This is Madison. Isn't she amazing? She gave this to me because the one thing she realizes is that you have the power to lift up the voices of the children that find themselves to the children's home. You have the power to respond to Madison's request. You have the power to become a strength of resource for the children in our community that are being abused and neglected. And I would like to ask you to give me the opportunity to go back to Madison tonight and say, not only did you hear her words, but you responded to her request. Please allow me that joy, because the one thing that Madison and I both know is that there is no act too small when your heart is so big that you want to help a child that's in our community struggling with child abuse and neglect. Let's help them. Thank you very much for your interest and your time.